At Forrester Creations, drama is currency, and secrets are always on the verge of combustion. When Bridget returned to Los Angeles and re-established herself at the hospital's elite clinic, no one expected she would become the axis on which everything would spin. But with Luna's pregnancy cloaked in speculation, suspicion, and scandal, it was only a matter of time before truth had to face science. And Bridget Logan was the one to deliver it. The paternity test was swift. Bridget insisted on performing it herself. No assistance, no interference. She knew the stakes were beyond medical. This was about legacy, betrayal, and the kind of truth that doesn't just change lives. It destroys them. The clinic was silent when the results came in. Bridget didn't sugarcoat it. She never does. She walked into the room where Luna sat flanked by Will and Electra, both with faces frozen in anxiety, and dropped the words like a bomb. Will is not the father of Luna's child. The silence cracked instantly. Luna looked like she'd been struck. Will exhaled with visible relief, but his reprieve was fleeting. Because in that moment, the damage had already been done. Yes, the baby wasn't his, but he had slept with Luna. And that truth wasn't going away. Not in this town. Not in this family. Electra's face twisted with betrayal. She had fought tooth and nail to keep her world from collapsing. And now she sat in the fallout of a lie she never saw coming. Her brother had risked everything for Luna, and lost. And Luna? She was cornered again. The one thing she feared most, the question she thought she could outrun, was now coming at her from every direction. Then who is the father? Bridget asked quietly, her medical role now bleeding into something far more personal. The room demanded an answer. Everyone had theories. Rumors had been building for weeks. Some whispered about Remy, the charming yet elusive designer who had recently made waves at Forrester. Others believed Luna had been hiding something darker, something that went beyond a one-night mistake. Will sat back in his chair, hands clenched. His relief at not being the father was real but short-lived. Because even if the test cleared him biologically, it didn't save his name. The press was already circling. Headlines were writing themselves. Will Spencer sleeps with model Luna, may have fathered her child. In the court of public opinion, he was already guilty. And in the court of family, especially with the Spencer name, he was radioactive. Electra, unable to hold back, stood up and turned to Luna. You owe us the truth. Right now. No more games. Luna's eyes filled with tears. But this wasn't the kind of crying that bought sympathy anymore. Too many lies. Too much time. Too many consequences. And just when she opened her mouth to speak, another name entered the room like a ghost through the walls. Remy. Because as the pressure built and speculation reached its boiling point, Remy appeared. Uninvited. Calm. But carrying the kind of certainty that made hearts stop. She doesn't need to say it, he said, voice steady. I'm the father. The room exploded. Will stood up. Electra gasped. Bridget froze. Luna buried her face in her hands. But Remy didn't waver. He looked directly at Bridget. Test me. I'll prove it. But I already know. And so the second test was arranged. Faster this time. More eyes on it. Less privacy. More at stake. Meanwhile, across town, another storm was forming. Steffi Forrester, having been abroad for weeks on an extended business trip and personal reset, had just arrived back in Los Angeles. She was stepping into what she believed would be a return to balance. Instead, she walked straight into chaos. Because Luna wasn't just a scandal, she was a symbol of everything Steffi despised. Weakness, deception, threats to the family name. And now, she wasn't just a model in their campaigns. She was carrying a child whose paternity had the power to split families apart. The Luna situation was now a Forrester problem. And Steffi was ready for war. She confronted Ridge first, demanding to know why he had allowed this mess to unfold unchecked. Brooke was already on defense, siding with Bridget and calling for empathy, saying Luna needed support, not shame. Ridge was torn between logic and loyalty. But Finn? Finn had no such luxury. Because Luna's drama had now reached his family. Lee, Finn's mother, had been quietly watching the Luna situation spiral. She had always seen Luna as unstable, a wild card. Now, she saw her as a direct threat to everything she'd built for her son. And when Steffi and Finn discussed the fallout, it wasn't about gossip. It was about survival. The Forresters had weathered scandal before, but this felt different. This felt surgical. Poison slowly spreading through the core. Lee wanted Luna out. Finn, ever the healer, wasn't sure. But the tension between mother and son was growing. And Brooke and Ridge? They were once again at opposite ends of a familiar battlefield. Brooke arguing for compassion. Ridge demanding action. Back at the hospital, the second DNA test was confirmed. Remy was the father. It should have been closure. But instead, it blew the lid off everything. Because Remy had history, not just with Luna, but with others in the Forrester inner circle. He had secrets, old flames, rivalries. There were whispers he had been involved with another Forrester woman in the past. Possibly even tied to one of the business scandals that nearly toppled the company during the international expansion. Now, Remy was part of the bloodline, like it or not. And Luna, carrying his child, became a chess piece in a much bigger game. Steffi moved quickly. She arranged a meeting of key Forrester players to address the Luna issue, including legal advisors and PR strategists. She wanted Luna removed from campaigns, contracts revised, and a full background check on Remy. Brooke fought back. This isn't just business, this is a baby. An innocent life. Steffi didn't flinch. And that innocent life is tied to a woman who lied to us all. I won't let Forrester be collateral damage again. Finn was caught in the middle. His oath as a doctor clashed with his duty as a Forrester by marriage. Lee pushed him harder, warning that Luna could be manipulating Remy and everyone else for security, money, or worse. The Forresters began to fracture. Lines were drawn. And Luna? She stayed quiet until she didn't. One evening, in a press conference no one saw coming, Luna stood alone. No lawyers, no agents, no family, just her. I'm not perfect, she said. I've made mistakes. I've lied. I've been afraid. But this child, I won't be ashamed of this child. And if you think I'm leaving, think again. Because I belong here, and my baby deserves better than being treated like a scandal. It went viral. Support surged. So did hatred. But one thing was clear, the game had changed. Remy stepped beside her, publicly, proudly. Will disappeared from the spotlight, forced into therapy to rebuild his image. Electra left town, unable to stomach the humiliation. And Bridget? She stayed at the clinic, more involved than ever, watching as the fallout from one test tore through families like a firestorm. But this is Los Angeles. Scandal doesn't end here. It evolves. It multiplies. And for the Forresters, the Spencers, and everyone orbiting the gravitational pull of Luna's child, the storm has just begun. At University Hospital, tensions had never been higher. The sterile hallways were echoing with whispers. And behind every quiet door, there was a storm waiting to break. And at the center of it all stood Luna, pale, fragile, clutching a piece of paper that could shatter everything. Her pregnancy confirmation. Her hands trembled, but not because of the test results. It was because of the woman standing just inches from her, eyes filled with cold judgment, drive. Lee Finnegan. The confrontation had been inevitable. Ever since the news of Luna's pregnancy surfaced, Lee had been watching, analyzing every word, every expression, every inconsistency, and when Luna showed up at the hospital claiming she needed medical advice and support, Lee seized the opportunity to dig deeper. She didn't believe Luna, not fully, not anymore. Lee questioned her like a prosecutor. Dates, symptoms, timing, even the emotional context. Luna tried to stay calm, tried to explain that this wasn't a manipulation or a ploy, but Lee wasn't listening. The moment Luna hesitated, even for a second, Lee's suspicions locked into place. This isn't just about a mistake, Lee said flatly. This is about what kind of woman you are. And what kind of woman you'll force this child to be born to. Luna flinched, but Lee wasn't done. I have given my entire life to medicine. To truth. To protecting what's right. I will not allow you to drag my son, or this hospital, through the mud just to protect your own mistakes. And that's when Lee said what no one else would dare say aloud. You should end this pregnancy. The words hit like a hammer. Luna's eyes widened in shock. You don't get to decide that, Luna whispered, her voice barely audible. Lee stepped closer. I don't need to decide. I need you to understand the damage you're about to cause. To yourself, to Finn, to this family, to that child. There is no future here, Luna. No peace. The best thing you can do, for everyone, is to walk away. Quietly, permanently. Lee wasn't offering advice. She was issuing an order. Then she reached into her coat pocket and handed Luna a prescription bottle. There, take the first dose now. The rest will follow. You'll be monitored. It's safe. It's over before it begins. Luna stared at the bottle in her hand, breath caught in her throat. This wasn't support. This wasn't care. This was coercion, cloaked in a white coat and spoken with the confidence of someone used to being obeyed. Tears welled in Luna's eyes as she looked down at the pills. Her whole body trembled. Every instinct screamed to run. But she was alone, and scared, and tired. She uncapped the bottle. She took the first pill in her hand. She brought it to her lips. And then, Luna. The door flew open. Finn burst into the room. Time stopped. His eyes locked on hers. He saw the pill. He saw Lee. He saw everything. Don't, he said, voice hard. Put it down. Luna froze. Lee stepped in between them. She needs to do this, Finn. This is the only way to fix this disaster. Finn's expression turned to disbelief. You gave her that? You pushed this on her? Mom, are you out of your mind? Lee didn't blink. She's manipulating all of us. This child will ruin everything. You don't see it now, but you will. No, Finn growled. What I see is you crossing every line imaginable. You don't get to force this. You don't get to play God. He walked past her and gently took the pill from Luna's hand. You're safe, he whispered to her. I've got you. Lee's voice sharpened. So you're going to let her keep it? You're going to let her tie herself to you forever? To this family? Finn, she's not one of us. She never was. Finn turned slowly. You're right, he said. She's not like us. She's better. Lee stepped back like she'd been slapped. I'm reporting this, Finn said coldly. Everything you did. Every line you crossed. This is a hospital, not a courtroom for your vendettas. You used your license to intimidate a patient into a medical decision she didn't want. That's not medicine. That's abuse. For the first time, Lee faltered. You wouldn't. I will, he said. And if you try to go near her again, we're done. Forever. Luna sobbed quietly behind him. Lee said nothing. She walked out. The aftermath was chaos. Finn filed a formal complaint. Bridget supported the review. Hospital administration was shocked but not surprised. Lee's reputation had always been built on ice-cold efficiency and unshakable control. But now that control had turned to coercion. Meanwhile, Luna stayed at the hospital under observation, but her world was forever changed. What Lee had tried to take from her wasn't just her child, it was her voice, her choice, her dignity. And in that room, Luna had seen how easily power could become violence. But she also saw something else, Finn. Not just as a doctor. Not just as Steffi's husband. But as a man willing to stand between her and the abyss. The story spread. Media outlets picked up on the drama. Hospital scandal. Doctor pushes pregnant model toward termination? The headlines wrote themselves. Steffi, just beginning to hear the rumblings of Luna's return to the spotlight, was furious. Not just at Luna, but now at Lee. Because this wasn't the kind of scandal that could be managed quietly. This was a war, between families, between truth and control, between what's legal and what's moral. Brooke, standing firmly behind Luna, called for a review board. Ridge, caught in the middle again, tried to maintain order, but this time, even he couldn't stop the dominoes from falling. Luna, having nearly lost everything, now stood taller. She made a statement. No tears. No drama, just resolve. I will protect this child with everything I have. And I will not be shamed, silenced, or erased. The Forresters were shaken. The medical board launched an investigation into Lee's conduct. Finn doubled down on protecting Luna. And Lee? Lee was alone. Her hospital privileges suspended. Her medical career hanging by a thread. Her family fractured. But she didn't regret it. Not yet. Because Lee still believed she was right. And she still believed the worst was yet to come. Because to her, the real threat wasn't what Luna had done. It was what she might still do. And in the bold and the beautiful, the real battles are never won in courtrooms. They're won in hearts, in headlines, and in the choices made when no one's watching. When Rachel returned to Los Angeles, no one quite knew what to make of her. Once a sharp, calculating presence in the shadows of East Coast business circles, her reappearance in the glossy chaos of the Forrester universe came with a strange, unexpected twist. She wasn't here to reclaim power, settle scores, or ignite corporate war. She was now an energy healer. A crystal-carrying, chakra-balancing, sage-burning enigma, who claimed to have abandoned the boardroom for the higher frequencies of emotional recalibration, but in a city drowning in dysfunction and beautiful people with beautiful problems. Rachel's arrival was exactly the kind of bizarre disruption that LA didn't know it needed. Or deserved. She arrived just as multiple lives were quietly imploding. Bill Spencer had returned to his old habits. Isolated in his office, sipping bourbon like it was therapy. Pretending the void inside him was just another business risk he could manage. Katie, still torn between giving him yet another chance or finally closing the door, had been retreating into her own confusion. And Liam? He was just spiraling, as usual, caught between Hope's pregnancy chaos and the ghosts of every decision he failed to make. Rachel walked into this storm with silk robes, incense, and no apologies. She wasn't here for drama, she said. She was here for energetic repair. Her first stop? Spencer Publications. Unannounced, she floated into Bill's office mid-afternoon, barefoot, holding a smoky quartz wand in one hand and a bundle of burning sage in the other. The receptionist didn't stop her. No one dared. Bill looked up from his desk, mid-call, and froze. Rachel? It's me, she smiled. setting the sage bundle into a ceramic bowl on his conference table. And your aura is screaming for help. Bill blinked. What the hell are you doing here? Saving you from yourself, she said, placing 3 amethyst stones along the edge of his desk. You've been emotionally constipated for years. I'm here to open your root chakra. Bill stood up, scoffing. I don't have time for this. Rachel gave him a long look. That's what they all say. Until the walls close in. And that's when the smoke detector went off, triggered by the sage. Security was called. Rachel didn't move. She was escorted out of the building. Of course. But not before leaving Bill with a meditation playlist, a sealed jar of salt for spiritual cleansing, and a warning. If you don't detox your past, it will eat you alive. Katie heard about the incident within hours. She found it absurd, and also, strangely comforting. She hadn't laughed that hard in weeks. But when Rachel called her later that night to offer a private healing session, Katie didn't say no. They met at Katie's house. No cameras, no expectations, just 2 women and a table full of crystals, herbal tea, and sage that Katie politely asked her to not light indoors. Rachel asked Katie to close her eyes and identify the place where her heart felt broken the longest. Katie laughed at first, but then, as Rachel placed her hands just above Katie's shoulders and whispered softly about letting go of legacy love, something shifted. Katie started to cry. Real tears. Not the performative kind. Because the truth was, she hadn't let go. Not of Bill. Not of the pain. Not of the shame of always being second best. To Brooke. To money. To power. Rachel didn't try to fix it. She just listened. And Katie, for once, felt heard without being pitied. The next day, Katie booked a second session. Word spread fast. Liam was next. Of course, he didn't come willingly. Wyatt convinced him. Half mocking, half curious, after he saw how weirdly calm Katie had been at a family dinner. She's like Zen now, Wyatt said. No eye rolls. No passive-aggressive jabs. It's creepy. You should try it. So Liam did. He met Rachel at a Malibu retreat center she claimed was aligned with third-dimensional release. He expected a scam. Instead, he found a version of himself he barely recognized. I keep ruining everything, he said after 30 minutes of resisting her questions. I chase people away, I hurt them, and I pretend I'm the victim. But I'm not. I'm just scared to be alone. Rachel nodded, eyes closed, like she was absorbing the vibration of his guilt. You've been carrying other people's wounds as if they were your own, she said. That's not love. That's martyrdom. Liam didn't say anything. For once, he didn't have to. Rachel's sessions became a quiet underground movement among the emotionally destroyed elite of Los Angeles. She treated the rich and the broken. Models, designers, power players, ex-lovers, even a couple of the Forrester interns. She claimed not to charge, only asking for energetic exchange, which sometimes meant heirloom jewelry, sometimes expensive bottles of wine, and once, a vintage Porsche. Not everyone trusted her. Ridge didn't. He called her witchcraft with good lighting. Brooke was skeptical, too, until she heard from Katie. Then she got curious. Steffi refused outright. I don't need a healer, she snapped. I need fewer idiots in my life. Finn, however, booked a session. Quietly. He didn't tell Steffi. Rachel met him in secret at a location he chose. He told her about the hospital. About Lee. About Luna. About the weight of being the calm one while everything around him crumbled. Rachel told him the calm ones suffer the most. Because no one ever checks if they're okay. Finn left lighter. And Steffi noticed. Which triggered questions. Rachel's presence was becoming more than a novelty. It was becoming a threat. Especially to those who thrived on chaos. Because for once, people weren't reacting. They were reflecting. But then came the backlash. Thomas accused her of manipulation. He said she was capitalizing on trauma and inserting herself into families that didn't ask for help. Hope defended her. I needed someone to hear me without trying to fix me, she said. Rachel did that, but behind the scenes, Rachel wasn't just healing others. She was hiding her own story. She'd left New York after a breakdown. A real one, the kind that ends in lawsuits and locked psych wards. She reinvented herself in silence. Studied energy medicine. Learned every holistic ritual she could find. She built a new name, a new presence, a new sense of purpose. But now, in LA, the past was catching up. Someone from her East Coast days recognized her. A rival from her former life in finance. They leaked old photos. Boardroom scandal. Allegations. Depositions. The media turned. Suddenly, healer Rachel was exposed as Rachel Keating, once CEO of a company destroyed in a very public scandal. Her sessions were cancelled. Her name scrubbed from client lists. Bill laughed. I knew it was a con. But Katie said nothing. Liam didn't retract his praise. And Finn? He called her. Are you okay? He asked. Rachel, for the first time since arriving in LA, didn't have a ready answer. Because even healers have wounds that don't close easily. In the days that followed, Rachel disappeared again. Some say she left the city. Others believe she still lives in the hills, quietly practicing her work for those brave, or broken, enough to find her. But the mark she left on Los Angeles remains. In a city of scandal, she didn't offer salvation. She didn't cure pain. She held it, reflected it, let it be seen. And for a fleeting moment, that was enough. Even in the bold and the beautiful, not every storm ends in war. Some just leave the air clearer than before.